Good afternoon, good morning to everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the PWBSPEAKS webinar series. I hope that many of you who were in Bologna last week have managed to recover by now. And I'm delighted you could join us today for a talk about what is one of the most important pillars of the publishing industry, freedom to publish. And specifically the work that the International Publishers Association is doing around freedom to publish. And we are delighted to be joined here today by three members of the IPA's Freedom to Publish Committee, including James Taylor, who is the head of Freedom to Publish at the International Publishers Association and Communications. Welcome, James. We also have Kristenn Einarsson, who is the chair of the IPA Freedom to Publish Committee and also one of the hosts of the World Expression Forum taking place in Norway. And Jessica, who is joining us from Germany. Hi, Jessica, who also is an integral part of the IPA's Freedom to Publish Committee and also chair of the IPA's Copyright Committee. So we've got a fantastic group of people lined up to talk to you today about the work of the committee and in particular the Freedom to Publish Prize. But before we move into all of that, I'm going to ask everybody to introduce themselves, and then we will also talk a little bit about the committee itself and the work that it does. But James, let's kick off with you.
Sure. Thanks, Emma. Thanks for the welcome. My name is James Taylor. I'm the Director of Communications and Freedom to Publish at the International Publishers Association. I've been at the IPA since January 2018. And so I, alongside the communications work, I head up the coordination of the Freedom to Publish Committee for the IPA.
Great. And Kristenn, we've mentioned you're the chair of the IPA Freedom to Publish Committee, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yes, and I've been that for 6 years. I'm also currently the CEO of World Expression Forum, as you mentioned, where IPA is one of the shareholders. And we do work in Lillehammer every year. We'll do a lot of work on Vex for Use, as we call it. I've been in publishing for many, many years. I've also been a CEO of the Norwegian Publishers Association, but before that in publishing as well.
Thank you, Kristenn. And Jessica.
Thank you. Very pleased to be here today. Jessica Saenger from Germany, representing publishers and booksellers here in Frankfurt. And I've been part of the IPA's Freedom to Publish Committee for quite a long time now. And it's an incredibly interesting forum to be part of. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, and extremely important forum. As I say, freedom to publish is one of the core pillars of the publishing industry, and the IPA does some incredible work in this area. James, why don't you tell us a little bit about the committee and how it fits in with IPA's strategy?
Sure. Maybe quick background just on the IPA. So the IPA has 101 member associations in 81 countries. It was founded just over 125 years ago. And even back then, when it was founded, the two pillars of work were copyright, the promotion of copyright, and the promotion of the freedom to publish. And obviously that continues to be important to publishers today. We also work on other things, of course, like data, accessibility, sustainability. And so obviously there are a number of committees within IPA that manage that work, and the Freedom to Publish Committee is one of them. It is its members are elected by the General Assembly. There are 9 of them, and 3 of them are on this call. Together they meet 5-6 times a year. We have a case file. We monitor different freedom to publish situations around the world. We coordinate with publishers associations when there are challenging issues in certain countries. And we also manage the IPA's Freedom to Publish Prize, the Prix Voltaire, which is what we'll talk a little bit more about today.
That's a lot of work going on, especially, as you say, with all the members around the world and all of the different issues that are happening at the moment.
Tell us a bit more about, hi, by the way, I'm Simo. I'm the 3rd member of the Freedom to Publish Committee. Some of you may know me out there. And just a reminder that if you have any questions for our panel, please feel free to answer. Just heard a big whoosh. I wanted to know a bit more about freedom. Before we talk about the prize, the Voltaire Prize, maybe Jessica or Kristenn telling us more about what is freedom to publish? What is the purpose of this committee? What do we do other than sit 6 or 7? I feel more like it's like 12 times a year, but I mean, James was being, you said 5, but I don't think it's 5. I think it's more like 12. Kristenn, maybe you want to tell us about that.
Well, yeah, he forgets all the emails we have in the meetings as well. The thing is, the freedom, the situation of publishing and the freedom to publish is obviously very different around the world. So we have to try to look at this global perspective and also act on the local hindrance that is set up by government, by pressure groups, whatever might be, who is in charge of limiting the freedom to publish. And so, if you want a general statement on that, I think that the importance is that the publisher can publish what he or she deemed should be published. I mean, that's a key of it. And that is really also what we are trying to do to serve the communities that we are publishing in. And in this time and age where, fake news and all that is getting more and more difficult to handle for people, I think institutions like publishing houses need to have the freedom to challenge everything that is necessary to challenge in the society and be accepted by the society to do so.
Jessica, just pursuing on that question, Freedom to Publish Committee, I've seen the l'ordre du jour on many occasions, and I know that the Prix Voltaire is a big part of it, but what are some of the other issues that we're invited to talk about at the committee? Because we do have other issues than the Prix, for example, maybe talking about some of the other issues that we look at and that Kristenn leads us through with James.
Well, indeed, there's more than just the prize to keep us busy through the year. A lot of that has to do, of course, with programming for various events that we want to offer to members, to offer them insight into the situation of publishers in certain parts of the world, but also, for instance, sharing of experiences when publishers do come up against obstacles, threatening their freedom to make that choice of whom to publish and which voices to bring to readers. And sometimes it can be really useful to hear from people who have been through something where perhaps there's been pressure from a government, or perhaps there's been pressure from a societal group that's very much opposed to a voice that they're trying to publish. And then that kind of exchange can also be interesting for members and useful, I think. Obviously, there are, you can all imagine just from reading the news, the issues that we were confronted with. And I think it is important to emphasize that we're not just looking at countries where there is absolutely no freedom of expression, but we're also trying to look closer to home and to recognize where perhaps in democratic societies like I'm fortunate enough to live in, there are, the ground might be shifting. There might be trends that are worrying and concerning to us. And certainly at Börsenverein, we also have a freedom of expression committee and try to link closely between the work that's done there and the programming done there and the IPA's work as well.
Kristenn, would you say that this committee is a bit like a think tank for the IPA in terms of freedom to publish, and that issues are brought to us to reflect on and bring back to the IPA executive?
Yes, you can say that, and it's not only a think tank because the organization in IPA is such that the members of this committee are elected by the General Assembly, and they are responsible to the General Assembly for what they do, which means that we have a lot of room to make our decisions. We obviously have to present it to the executive committee, but there are mechanisms in place that even if the committee and the board or the executive committee disagrees, we could bring it to an extraordinary general assembly. I think that's important for our organization, because it gives this committee the possibility to really make their own judgment on what is the best cause. And if I could just add, to be sort of the internal think tank, I think it is important how we work together with our member organizations. And that takes different ways. It's obviously discussing with member organizations that are heavily involved in freedom to publish, like Jessica mentioned, the German Börsenverein, who have their own committee and are dedicated to this work and doing a lot of work. So that's more exchange of ideas and thoughts. Then you have organizations that do not have that kind of engagement, but are happy to follow sort of what we work on. And then you have also members, organizations in countries where they cannot stand up and say anything, even if they might agree with us. And then you have the fourth part, where you've got member organizations who are heavily involved by sort of what the government might decide in that country, because there is a real risk to what could happen to lives and everything. And in those countries, we might have to make statements that they would disagree with. So I think when we are making statements, it's three levels. We do it together with our member organization. The second level is they agree with us, but they cannot say so publicly. And the third one is we have member organizations that would not agree with us, but we will make a statement anyway.
One of the, I think you're bringing up points that make it, I've heard associations talking about, well, why become a member of the IPA? And I think just the ground on which you're talking right now makes it so important to be part of IPA and be able to have that group of people and this whole infrastructure supporting the assurance of freedom to publish. So that's really great. Maybe we want to move into the original question, which was the Prix Voltaire, and what does that do, and what does it eat during the wintertime? That's actually a French-Canadian expression. What does it eat in the wintertime? So maybe we want to, Kristenn, you want to give us a little brief idea of what the Prix Voltaire is, and we perhaps talk about it a little further.
Yeah, I can do that. And so the guidelines tells us that we should try to recognize publishers who do their work to the risk for both, the publishing house, to the lives, for jail, whatever, but they really risk something to promote and defend the freedom to publish. So that is sort of the group that we are trying to look at when we are finding a Prix Voltaire winner. We also have a Prix Voltaire special award, which we do Prix Voltaire every year, but the special award is something that this committee can decide to do 1 year or another, and it's a posthumous honor for an individual who have died recently, who has been really exercising the work for freedom of expression. So it's a kind of visibility for the exceptional engagements that they have exposed and how they were silenced for that. So these are the two prize categories.
Jessica, maybe you want to add anything?
Sure. The prize was for quite a long time called the IPA's Freedom to Publish Prize, and became the Prix Voltaire a number of years ago. James, remind me exactly when that was.
2016.
Sorry?
2016.
Thank you. And that, of course, is connected to the famous quote of supposedly Voltaire, but probably not, that even if we disagree with people's opinions, we defend their right to express them. And I think that's very much at the core of the way we think about this prize. It's already been described what it aims to do. And perhaps it's worth adding that besides just the laureate themselves, there is a short list of usually somewhere between 4 and perhaps 6. There isn't a fixed rule as to that number. Individuals or publishing houses on a short list who can also get some visibility through this prize, even if they don't turn out to be the laureate in the end.
And you mentioned individuals and publishing houses are eligible, Jessica. What's the profile of people, and how do they get nominated?
So we call for nominations publicly and throughout the sector, and we always hope for lots of nominations from the publishing world, and we do get them. We don't usually see self-nominations, though I think on occasion that has also happened. The eligibility criterion is really that someone, a person or a company, is active in publishing. And so not an author, not a journalist. We do get proposals for those quite often, but there are other organizations and prizes who serve those communities. So we're really looking to differentiate between who is really publishing other voices and bringing those to readers. And I think that's what makes the Prix Voltaire unique in terms of its eligibility criteria.
And how does the winner benefit? What does the prize do for the winner?
Well, there is a monetary award, 10,000 Swiss francs at present, which can be quite useful, I imagine. And of course, perhaps more importantly, we do try to give them publicity if they so wish, in the form of inviting them to events, giving them opportunities to speak, raising awareness about their cases. And I think that is probably what we can achieve as an organization. What we can best achieve is get those names out there and their stories so that people will be aware of what's happening to publishers around the world.
Emma, I just want to bring back what Jessica said, and I think people are, and I think it was Kristenn as well who mentioned it, but we have to be sensitive about what the reality of what's happening in different countries and in the publishing reality of different countries. So even within the committee, talking about whether or not we are going to be making it an invitation is also a question of whether or not we are putting this person at risk by doing so. And so all of these questions come up, and it becomes very entangling with emotions as to how do we go about promoting that freedom to publish without hindering anybody's risk for life or imprisonment. Or very important.
If I can just add to that, I think this is, as you know, Simon, a very important question, and for some of the candidates, it's not a problem at all. You know, we know that if we give them a prize, that will be supportive to their cause. But then there are the cases of doubtness, where we, you know, it's difficult to consider, could this be damaging to the persons that we give the prize? And you may say, I think sort of on my principal view is that we, in most cases, should give the prize to the person or the publishing house that we think should have it. Otherwise, we are introducing a level of censorship which makes it difficult. But it might be an occasion, but I haven't, in my time, and I've been there for 7 years, I think, I don't think we have stopped deciding giving someone prize, even if we didn't know. When you give the prize to Gui Minhai, who is lost in China, you don't know, does it help or does not? That's just an example. But we decided to give him the prize.
You just go ahead, Jessica.
Sorry, just to add to that, I mean, as Kristenn mentioned, we have awarded the prize to people who have been in prison at the time, as is the case with Gui Minhai. Khalid Lotfi was another case like that. And of course, we talk to the family or the supporters, to see then what could work for them in terms. We do campaign for their release. I mean, we write letters to a government, that kind of thing, in order to secure their release or support an effort to do so if we possibly can. And which route to that is the best in each individual case will differ. Sometimes you've got to really work behind the scenes. We've done that. Sometimes it's about being very loud in public. And we do adapt and adjust that to the situation at hand.
Perhaps that's a great lead to a question. Like, we're talking about the impact that it has on some people, but what's impact specifically has it had on you? I mean, all three of you have been around and have done this for quite a few years personally. And James, I want you to join in that conversation as well. All of you, one at a time, please, not together. Maybe a specific moment, a specific event, a specific prize where you said, "Oof, this really touched me," and you're still thinking about it today, or haunts you, whatever. Please, maybe James, because we haven't heard you for a long time.
Thanks, Simon. There's lots. So the ceremony in the years that IPA has a congress, which is every 2 years. The award ceremony is during the congress. So there'll be one in Guadalajara later this year. And my first congress was in New Delhi. The ceremony was for Gui Minhai. His daughter joined remotely, and there was also a special award, 2 special awards for Liu Xiaobo and for Faisal Arafindipan, who is a Bangladeshi publisher who was murdered for the books that he published. And his widow, Faisal Arafindipan's widow, was there, and Angela also spoke about her father. And it's a big room. There's lots of people. It's the evening. There's people talking. The noise drops, and people listen attentively. And it's really difficult to keep your emotions in check when you hear their stories from these people closest to them. I won't forget that particular evening. But every ceremony tends to do the same. They're the most amazing, brave people, and just being able to celebrate them is a great thing.
Jessica, anything that comes to mind?
Yes, definitely. I was also thinking of that ceremony in Delhi, but I was fortunate enough to be able to meet one of our laureates after he'd been released from prison. And the way simply he greeted me, someone who was essentially unknown to him, was already moving with a huge hug. And then we then sat, Jose was there as well, we sat with his family for over a meal, and the way he said that we had been the only part of the book sector, the only ones from his professional life who had sent a signal to him that he was neither forgotten, nor was it right for him to be in prison, that we were, supporting him and on his side in this. That was extremely moving. And I think that shows something about the impact that the prize can have when it actually helps that person get through a very, very tough period, at least emotionally to some extent. That's incredibly rewarding, and that was really, really moving for me.
Perfect. Kristenn?
Go ahead.
Emma.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the sort of the human touch of it is with the families and with the colleagues of the prize winners, because very often we don't have the possibility to give it to the prize winner there because they're in jail or they have been killed, and we keep the connection. So I think one part of our work is that it's not only that year, that's the Prix Voltaire year, but we keep in contact, we keep following up. And these 2 examples, I remember very well. I can put in a third one because I should have been in Lebanon in February to meet Rasha Al-Amir, who was one of the 2 winners of our Prix Voltaire a couple of years ago, together with her brother Lockman Slim, who was killed that year, and his killers has still not been found, but they have not been brought to court anyway. But I should have been there, but then they called me a couple of weeks before and said they didn't want us to go to Lebanon just now, but I've already talked about let's do it next year. So we keep in contact with them, and Rasha Alamir, they are working very hard on the freedom to publish in Lebanon. They're also working on changing the system so that killers should be found and put to court. So I think these connections don't stop. I think that's the emotional takeaway that we have in this. And then obviously it's, as I said, when a couple of times you have to make the decision if you should go or not. I think perhaps the most difficult one in recent years was when we gave it to the Liberal Publishing House in Vietnam, because the main person in that publishing house was jailed some weeks after, and she's been in prison since then. But she was very clear that she wanted the prize. She wanted us to give it. But such brave people, it's really impressive.
Emma, you want to butt in, or?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask how the prize is funded and how it's judged as well. So going sort of like a little bit back to the procedural side of things, and just wondering how that all works.
Maybe James, the guy behind the.
Yeah, I can start, and then Kristenn and Jessica and Simon, you've seen it too. You can all jump in. So we're the prize. We're very lucky to have sponsors, publishing houses, who sponsor the prize money, who make it possible for the prize money, but also to be able to bring the laureates or their family to the ceremonies and things like that. And so we're very grateful to them for that. And every year we're always looking for more sponsors. So if anyone's watching, this is an open invitation to get in touch and to support the Prix Voltaire. And then in terms of procedure, so there's based on all of the nominations that come in, we look at first of all, who's eligible and produce a long list based on that. And then we do sort of a due diligence process. We try and reach out informally and find out more about each situation, try and get more from the people who've nominated, where there's doubts about, a particular situation in a country or a particular market, and just try and build up the strongest files we have on each of the nominees so we can really analyze their case. And then it comes down to a really difficult conversation about who we want to put on the shortlist, and those are tough conversations. There are a lot of really brave publishers out there doing things, but working out which cases deserve to be more visible, and trying to put those ones forwards. And that's the work of the committee then, to have that conversation, to ask the right questions, to look for more information if necessary, and settle on a shortlist, which we announce. The next shortlist announcement will be at the World Expression Forum at the end of May in Norway. And then after that, to go again with an even more difficult conversation and find the laureate from amongst them.
And I can butt in and simply say that I'm relatively new to the committee, and I see the diligence with which each member goes through the process of reading and understanding and asking difficult questions, not taking for granted whatever has been said, but asking for those extra questions that make it sure that these people are on the right list. Not that they don't deserve to be recognized for something, but this is freedom to publish Prix Voltaire. So got to make sure that these are the right people. And I've seen some of the questions being asked that I would never dare ask. And I find that committee very strong for that matter.
I could perhaps add that looking at the work of the committee, I think when we are a jury for the Prix Voltaire, I think first of all it's so important the work that James and his people are doing to get all the necessary information, helping us on getting answers to all the questions that we have. That's sort of the initial phase, and then secondly, I'm really satisfied with the process in the committee. There's a willingness to first of all try to make up your own mind, because we always ask you to come prepared when we get into discussion. I'm not going to tell you too much about the work, but I can say that we ask you to come to it with some of your favorites. So we present our favorites, and then we start discussing, and people are not only talking, but they are listening. So I think it's a great process when we are trying to first of all find the shortlist candidates, and then so also when we get into finding the laureate. I think it's I think very good and nice atmosphere when we are doing it. It's serious, it's difficult, and we try to listen to each other and try to find the right candidate, and I think we managed.
And you said this year's prize will be awarded in Guadalajara at the IPA Congress. Is that right, James?
That's it. Yep.
And that's in early November.
The third, early December, the 3rd to the 6th.
December. That's it. Yeah.
And that'll be the part of the gala dinner on the evening of the first day.
Fantastic.
Jessica, did you want to add anything to the process, or?
Well, I very much agree. It's difficult, and we do, argue in the best sense among each other to really come to a decision that in the end everybody can support. I think that's quite important too, because as Kristenn was describing, we do continue to work with both the laureate and potentially others from the shortlist, and try to move things forward for them and with them. And one of the criteria, of course, we do look at is who's going to benefit from this publicity, perhaps, or hasn't had all that much publicity yet around their case. So that's part of what we look at there.
One of the things that, we talked about the committee being a group of 9 with James, and I think one of the things that people should know is that there's a very varied perspective on publishing, because we have people coming, it's not all European and Western Europe, Western continent. There's a lot of people from a lot of places, and what's really interesting is those discussions bring in also their own perspective and the risks, and so the discussion is always rich. I have to say that's really interesting. James, you mentioned, and I think that's important, because we do need to talk about that. We want to be able to give the laureates that sum, and we should re-mention it. You mentioned it briefly, and a bit with a subtle moment of humility, but we are looking for money. And I think if you are a publisher, or if you are an association, and if you feel that freedom to publish is an essential element, then yes, you should perhaps turn to James and turn to the IPA. And even if you're not a member of IPA, you can still be part of the solution in helping make these people shine internationally. So don't hesitate. If you've been thinking about what to do with those 10,000 pounds you've got in your pocket, please give James a call. Right.
On that note, I think, so great. Go ahead, Jessica.
Sorry, just butting in there to say it is important. We feel that the prize be supported by publishers themselves, so by the sector, because it's for publishers and it's in recognition of what this entire community is doing. So that's really important.
Money well spent. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. I think on that note, we're coming to the end of our time, Simon. I don't know if you've got any other questions.
No.
Or if Kristenn,
maybe,
Jessica,
yeah, perhaps you've got a last little comment to make to the public. By the way, the public is listening right now, but we keep this going on our Facebook group and on other places. Even I don't even know where we are. But but you will be seen. So if you have a last comment to make to the audience, all publishers, just a reminder that there's about 5,000 members with PWB, and all of them are publishers or involved in the book industry. So please, this is your moment to tell them.
Yeah, well, I think I would like to say that, as you say, we reach out as an organization to quite many countries, but we really welcome comments and ideas from anybody. And we really are interested not only concerning the Prix Voltaire, but also cases that you will lift into IPA. We are happy to receive any information, and you'll probably get the contact information from James Taylor somewhere. So we, please do that. That helps us to reach out. And if there's anything you would like to know more about what we are doing, we do arrange things at Frankfurt, obviously, and at London. We also were at Bologna last time. And I could perhaps add just at the end that we are also reaching out to working with the other stakeholders in the industry, and we have just released a statement which is signed by the European and International Booksellers Organization, the Authors Forum, IFLA, the Library Associations, and IPA, about the freedom of expression, the freedom to publish, and the freedom to read. And the freedom to read is more and more important with all the book banning and all that is happening. So we are not only looking at the publishing part of it, we are really looking at everything that happens from if an author can and will write the book and until it gets to the reader. So my appeal is really now, be in touch with us.
Right. Jessica?
Well, couldn't agree more. I think we try to, be very much in a listening mode when we offer sort of open meetings, formats like that. But at any time, it doesn't have to be an event we've organized. So do approach us and give it a thought. You might know somebody who might be a good candidate for our prize. Let us know about them as well.
And I think what you're saying is true. Some people are not even sure. So if you're not sure, just send it to us, and we'll be able to at least be informed of the situation. The person may not be a recipient of the Prix Voltaire, but that person will be on our list of people to watch or publishers to keep an eye on. And just before I let James finish, I wanted to mention, because somebody mentioned the fact that we keep updated on the events that are happening, and James has a document that he gives to the committee every time we see him, where he gives an update on everything that's happening in every case that's being watched, and he kindly highlights in yellow what's new, so we don't have to reread everything. But just to say that this is a very thorough and profound impact on what's going on. We know what's going on, and that's greatly thanks to James' impact. And we'll leave James with the last words of wisdom as the director of our Freedom to Publish Committee.
Thanks, Simon. No pressure, but I think just the Freedom to Publish work at the IPA and the Prix Voltaire, it goes to the heart of what makes publishing so important. Generally, when you see these publishers talking about what they've published and what they've gone through to get other people's words, not their own words, but they've risked themselves to publish other people's work, and that's an amazing thing about what publishers do. And so every time we have the Prix Voltaire ceremony, you're confronted with that. It's just demonstrates the importance of publishing to our societies, our communities.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kristenn, Jessica, James, for the time you took for us this morning. I think you sent a clear message. I think the PWB members are clearly behind you, and we're going to make sure that others know about this committee, know more about IPA, and the fact that the Prix Voltaire is there, and that we should speak out for those who cannot in the publishing industry. Thank you so much to the three of you. Emma, always a pleasure to be with you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks all.
Cheers.
Bye.